This is Ghost, my daily rider, a 2012 V-Strom 650. Ghost needs a new front tire. While I've done a few tire changes in the past, I would be lying if I said I enjoyed the experience. So these days, I pull the wheel and let a shop do the tire swap. Before I start, a quick disclaimer. I am not a certified mechanic, just a regular guy working in his garage. So that being said, today I'm going to walk you through how to remove the front wheel from a V-Strom 650. To remove the front tire, there are basically 7 bolts that need to be undone. On the right side of the bike, there are 2 bolts for the caliper and 1 for the ABS sensor. On the left, there are another 2 for that caliper, an axle pinch bolt, and the axle itself. The tools I'm using today are a jack to take the weight off the front wheel, some bungees to hang the brake calipers, a 12mm socket for the ABS sensor and the pinch bolt, a 14mm socket for the caliper bolts, and a 12mm hex head socket for the axle. The first thing I'm going to do in the video is take the weight off the front tire, though doing this first is actually a bit of a mistake, as I'll explain in a minute. If your bike has a center stand, it's a matter of pushing or pulling the back end down, or pushing or pulling the front end up to unweight the front tire. I use a floor jack to push the front end up, but I've used other methods in the past, including using a tie-down strap between the luggage rack and a fixed point on the floor to pull down the back, and using a tie-down strap from a rafter to the handlebars to pull up the front. The next step is to remove the 4 brake caliper bolts. The mistake I mentioned earlier is that I should have loosened all the bolts first before jacking up the front. Doing so helps keep the front wheel steady while you're breaking the bolts free. Next, I'll use a 12mm socket to remove the ABS sensor. This can be left to hang free, unlike the calipers. They are heavier, and letting them hang free would put unwanted strain on the brake lines. So I have some bungee cords ready to hang them once I've wiggled them free of the brake disc. Note, once the calipers are off, take care not to pull the front brake lever, as it will push out the pistons and pads, making reinstall much more difficult. With the calipers out of the way, I'll use the 12mm socket to loosen the pinch bolt at the bottom of the left fork leg. And the 12mm hex socket to unscrew the axle. If you don't have a 12mm Allen or hex, you can use a bolt with a 12mm head and use a couple of nuts jammed very tightly together. With the axle drawn out, I'll slip the spacers back onto it so that there's no confusion as to how they go back together, and remove the front wheel. I always give the wheel a thorough cleaning before I bring it in for a tire change. It's easier to clean with it off the bike, and it's appreciated by the guys at the shop doing the tire change. The other thing to do while the wheel is off is to clean the spacers and the axle, and inspect the wheel bearings. They should rotate freely and smoothly. If they feel notchy or gritty at all, they're on their way out and should be replaced while you have the wheel off. Today I was bringing my wheel to a shop in Burien called World of Mayhem. I love motorcycle shops like this, and it seems like there are fewer and fewer of them around every year. World of Mayhem's owner, Bill, is a great guy to chat with, and he and his associate made quick work of swapping my tire.
Hey, this is Bill. We're on the Mayhem Motorcycles. We're just getting a tire done for Jason here. He took off his wheel and brought it into us. We're just mounting and balancing his tire for him on his wheel.
With the wheel back at home, reinstalling it is mostly just a matter of doing everything in reverse. Slipping the front wheel back into position, I'll lightly grease the insides of the spacers and give the axle a smear of grease as well. With everything in place, I lift the wheel into position, put the axle back through, and snug it up with the 12mm hex socket. With the axle in, I'll remove the jack and loosely reinstall the calipers. I recommend using a bit of blue Loctite on the caliper bolts. Now I'll tighten everything up, starting with the axle, then the pinch bolt, and finally the calipers and the ABS sensor. And that is the front wheel reinstalled. Thanks for watching.